Good morning, monsters, and welcome to today's show of Monsters on the Edge. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, and you're listening to the Untold Radio Network. Today's show is going to be pre-recorded, so we are not live today. Sorry about that. I got a lot of stuff going on, and my guest actually works during the live show, so he is unavailable for the live stream. So today, we will get him on here recorded, and you can hear an awesome interview. But first, as always, guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge. If you guys haven't checked it out, Wisconsin Caps, my research team, has a show on Paraflix Paranormal Plus streaming platform. It is called On the Trail of Undiscovered Beasts. Season 1 is airing now, and it is all about Bigfoot in Wisconsin. Season 2 will be coming out this fall, and we'll cover some more cryptids and creatures from across the U.S. If you want to subscribe to Paraflix, it is about $3.99 a month, and you can use promo code CAPS10 to get 10% off your first 3 months. And if you want to show your support for Wisconsin Caps, head on over to our website at wisconsincaps.com and click on Shop Our Store. There you'll find t-shirts and hoodies, sweatshirts, magnets, stickers, mugs, tote bags, tank tops, pillows, and more, all with all of our logos and stuff. You can show it, you can wear it, you can display it, and tell people how awesome we are. While you're online, head on over to Wisconsin Caps on all of your favorite social media platforms: Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And of course, WI Caps on Instagram. You can find all this and more at wisconsincaps.com. Coming up, guys, it is this weekend. Ooh, there we go. It's not centering when I zoom in. This weekend, it is the Chicago Paranormal Convention, June 17th, noon to 7 p.m. 6 speakers, tarot card readers, leaf reader, and tea leaf reader. Oh, I can't read. And over 80 vendors. It's going to be a great time. Always a great event with my guest today is the one in charge of it, so he can tell you all about it and everyone that's going to be speaking there. And then in August, guys, we head to MI Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie, Upper Michigan. And then we come down to the Glen Beulah for the Great Lakes Paranormal Conference in September 22nd through the 24th. A lot of great people are going to be at this one, so make sure you get your tickets. And then in November, we head to Lexington, Kentucky for CryptidCon. That is always a great event, and we'll be there for the 3rd year in a row here. That's what we got coming up. That's it. There's more. There's always more, but that's what we got for now. So without any further ado, my guest today, as I said, is the guy in charge of the Chicago Paranormal Convention. And this is going to be, I think, the 4th one. So it's always a great time down in Chicago. If you guys can come check it out, it is great. So he is also a researcher, a paranormal investigator, an author, and he does a lot of ghosts and paranormal tours down in the Chicagoland area. So if you're in the area, check it out. Here to tell you more, my guest, Jack Chavez. How you doing?
What a great introduction. Not a lot give good introductions, but you're okay, Barnaby.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir, man.
So how's it going?
I'm good. You do a lot of stuff, but I have had a lot of guests where I have to skip half of their stuff just to not spend the entire episode explaining it. So thank you for being
I'm sure.
A lot of talents.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So I want to get this right out of the way because for the people listening, I want to make sure that they got time to come out and check this out. So let's talk right away before we get into you and all your stuff. Let's talk about the convention.
Yeah. Nah, we could skip it.
We can skip it. You gotta promote your own event, man. I've been promoting it.
I want to know more about CryptidCon. I'm excited for that. No, the Chicago Paranormal Convention, you're right, it is the fourth one. Um, it's a lot of fun. So far we've had some good crowds come in. I'm really thankful for that. We've had some great speakers. You've spoken at how many? One or two?
Two of them so far, yeah.
It's
And I'll
two
be
of
at this.
them, and then you're gonna speak at this one. So it'll be Saturday, June 17th from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to have about 80 vendors. It says over 80. I don't think I'm going to have over 80 vendors, but I'm going to have about 80 vendors. For the public, it's just a $1 admission. We're going to have a raffle there where I'll be giving out some paranormal items. Some of that is going to be like books, pins, stickers, things like that. And then, yeah, I'm going to have a couple presentations on the paranormal. Um, my One of my speakers is going to be Neil Gibbons from Graveside Paranormal. He's a ghost hunter, ghost researcher in south side of Chicago. And yeah, I've done actually a couple different investigations with Neil, so they're always fun. And then after that, it's going to be Karen Lafrano. Karen is a cannabis coach. So her presentation is going to be the connection between spirituality and marijuana. Um, every time I tell people about that one, they get really excited. So,
Oh,
uh, I wonder why.
yeah.
Um, I'm also going to have Chad Lewis, and Chad is going to talk about supernatural dares in Illinois. Chad, for those that don't know, Chad Lewis is a paranormal author, paranormal researcher, and he has traveled not only all around the country, but all around the world researching various topics on the paranormal. And I'm also going to have Barnaby Jones, Mr. Barnaby Jones,
You
the
guys are
one and
just
only. Barnaby is going to talk about cryptids in Wisconsin and Illinois. So I'm looking forward to that. I always get, complimented after the convention about your about your presentations, Barnaby. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. I want to try to record it this time too, so
I
I
have
could have a
recordings of
copy.
all the ones that I've done for you.
And you haven't sent it to me. God, you
You never
haven't sent it
asked.
to me. Yeah, well, okay, I'm asking.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be in Countryside, Illinois, at the Countryside Convention Center. Um, at 6200 Joliet Road in Countryside, Illinois. So, if you're listening to this, please come out. It's going to be a great time. Every time we do this, it's almost like a family reunion because a lot of the guests have become friends actually after going to these things, and I really like that about the convention. And a lot of the vendors become friends afterwards too. So it's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Always a good time. I know a lot of the Caps team will be at this event as well. So because it's so close to home, that
Right.
we actually are going to have quite a good presence at your event this year. So looking
Oh,
forward.
that's cool. I'm glad. Yeah.
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 So, but the real reason we're talking today, because obviously the Chicago Paranormal Convention is great. Look forward to that, and
Yeah.
that is this coming weekend. So we get to see you again. This is not taped. This is again taped. So we're trying to remember what day it is and what
Right.
it's not. But
Yes.
um, so Jack, you
Yeah.
are, as we said, like a paranormal researcher and stuff. You've also done work with the Chicago Mothman sightings,
hmm
and you are currently still working on your book. How's that coming with the crawlers?
It's coming. It's slow. It's coming slowly. See, the thing is, I'm at this impasse because I'm starting to think that crawlers might be, and I could be wrong. I need to stress this. I could be wrong. I'm starting to think crawlers might be the Windigo.
Mhm.
Um, there is a lot of connections. I shouldn't say a lot. There's some connections between the Windigo and crawlers that I'm finding out. The further I delve into the Windigo, so I'm that's the reason why I'm at this impasse because I want to know before I go forward. Am I just writing a book on the Windigo? And if that's the case, then I kind of need to change things. I needed to move things around. Um, I One of the books that I read was by Chad Lewis. Actually, he wrote a book on the Wendigo, and then the research that I'm doing, the people I'm talking to, and it's making me just stop and think. Like, if this is the Wendigo, then I definitely need to move the book in a different direction because there are already great books on a Wendigo, so I need to. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now in my thinking for the book. Is there's things that are I'm trying to figure things out. I'm rearranging some things, so that's why it's coming slow. But I'm still doing the interviews and stuff, so that's been really intriguing. It's been a lot of fun too. That's the most fun actually in doing the book is talking to the witnesses, getting their story, and just hearing their kind of the awe that's in their voice when they're telling the story. It just it gets me going as a paranormal researcher, you know. So that's still what I'm kind of working on.
Wow.
But
Well, let's
maybe
back.
I should probably tell the audience what a crawler
I was
is,
just gonna
shouldn't
say,
I? Yeah,
let's
yeah.
back up here and tell a little bit about. So obviously, this is the episode is going to be rakes, crawlers, and the Windigo. So let's talk about like what a rake is, what a crawler is, like your definition. What are the kind of what are people describing that they're seeing?
Okay, so a rake is what's known as a creepy pasta. Now, what's a creepy pasta? A creepy pasta is an internet-based horror story. Creepy pastas are fictional stories. So we know the origin of this being called a rake. We know the individual who created it. There was an online contest and everybody needed to make a monster. And then so this individual he made what eventually became known as the Rake. It's very similar to how Slender Man was actually created. Slender Man is also known as another creepypasta, an internet created horror story. So the Rake is fictional. The problem is though that people are actually seeing this being. Um, Now, there are people that say, well, okay, if people are seeing this being, then that means that it's a tulpa, which is you know, a mental, what am I trying to say, Barnaby?
Thought form.
A, a thought form. Yeah, thank you. A thought form, a being that's created from our own psyche, manifested out into the world. But I don't believe that that's what a these sightings are because they predate when the rake was created, which was 2005. It predates 2005. Um, so I started hearing reports. This was a couple years ago on these sightings that mirror what a rake is. And at first, I just kind of dismissed it because I just figured that it was that they were hoaxes, people just creating stories. But as some time went on, I started hearing more and more about it, and I was kind of drawn to it. And what people were describing were these creatures that were anywhere from 6 to 7 feet tall, sometimes 8 feet tall, even. They had elongated arms, the elongated limbs. They're usually hunched over or crawling on all fours, um, very pale, emaciated looking. Um, Hairless, bald, very humanoid, but like a very lanky humanoid that was very pale. And So that's why they eventually became known as crawlers because they were usually seen on all fours, crawling around, um, or even galloping, like making this like kind of hunched over, like galloping run, like you would see like a horse do almost.
Mhm.
So they became known as crawlers. Now, crawlers and the rake, they are very similar, if not the same in terms of description. But like I said, and I really want to stress this, the rake is a fictional character, but these crawlers are, they're actually being cited from people, you know, everywhere. So I became really invested in these stories and I started to reach out to people and I wanted to, interview them, you know, get more details on these sightings and what they think that they were seeing. And I've now interviewed, I believe, it's like 10 people, and I'm yeah, I'm writing this little book on it. And I, like I said, I don't really quite know the direction that a book is going to take right now, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still in the interviewing process. So,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Do you think that the guy that wrote the creepy pasta, do you think that he was already aware of these other creatures prior to that and maybe based the rake on the crawlers?
I, I don't know because there is so there's this website called for the people that are not familiar, called Reddit, and there's a subreddit with people, will post about crawler sightings, and I believe that subreddit came out afterwards, and that's where a lot of people are inputting these sightings. So I really don't know. I mean, it is possible because those sightings were around, so maybe people around him were talking about it and he was influenced by it. But, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I'm not sure. So,
So now you were talking about also that you think that these might be related to or very similar to the Windigo.
yeah.
So can you give us a little bit of a description of what these creatures are and where the mythology comes from that?
Yeah. So while writing the book, I was like, okay, a lot of these sightings seem relatively new. Um, whether it's the 2000s or the 90s, but where are the sightings that go back further than that? So I was like, so I came up with the idea like, is it possible that we could find similar things in mythology? So I went back in mythology, mythological stories to see if there was anything similar, and I actually came across like a lot of different creatures. In ancient Japan, they were called the Jikiniki. They were these flesh-eating beings that were, um, again, emaciated, pale, and they were flesh eaters. They ate the dead, not living people. They ate bodies of corpses. And then you have in Celtic mythology. Now I'm probably butchering the name over here, but I believe it's called a Drauker. But again, it's another pale creature that would come out at nights. And then in the Philippines, you have the Aswang. Now, the Aswang, there's different types of Aswang I found out recently, but one of them is a ghoul-like being that's pale and eats corpses. And then you have the Native American Wendigo. Now, the reason why I'm not sure if it is the Wendigo is because the Wendigo is not really known as a flesh eater. I mean, in terms of its cannibalism, yes, but these other beings tend to eat like decomposing corpses. And I haven't come across that with the Wendigo yet. But the other thing is that you have to remember the description that we have today of the Wendigo is actually different than the oral tradition. The description of the Wendigo today has like a deer-like head or wearing a deer skull with antlers. That's not the Wendigo from the oral Native American traditions. We actually don't have too much of a description of the Wendigo of that time, but we do know that it was said to be very, very thin and very tall. Now, in Native American mythology, the Wendigo was able to grow as tall as a tree. Obviously, crawlers don't do that, but could there be a little bit of maybe a little bit of exaggerating in the mythology? Maybe it wasn't actually as tall as a tree, but it was just their way of saying how tall it was, because crawlers can be as tall as 6 feet, 7 feet, even 8 feet tall. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So So that's what makes me think that it could possibly be the Wendigo. And that's the thing, that if it turns out that it is, then I need to I need to put a different spin on the book that I'm writing. So so yeah, I don't remember your question, but I hope that answered it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, that's the interesting thing about this. Like a lot of people might be watching this. Why are we talking about this? Because it's not Bigfoot. It's not, your typical creatures. But here is another creature from mythology that, you talked about it being a creepy pasta. And all people write that off right away as just this thing is non-existent, it's fake, it's a story. And that's just one aspect of it. Now you're talking about all these other creatures from around the world, because
Mhm.
when you look at what you're describing, the same as a Bigfoot, you have these creatures that when you take away the name, you have these things being seen all over the world.
Right.
So why, if these things don't exist, why do you have a very similar description and um biography of these things? They're what they do, the characteristics, how they look, what they do, how they act. How do you have this happening all across the world if
Hmm.
there isn't some truth to that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's what made me really delve into this crawler phenomena, is because it's not just a few here, a few sightings over there. It's like it really does encompass the world. And like I said, you find this in mythology, so there must be there must be something to it. I talked to somebody who is totally convinced that they are an offshoot of humanity, of humans, I should say. Um, that they are humans that evolved underground, the
Mhm.
subterranean beings. Um, but then I talked to somebody else that totally believes that they are supernatural beings. And it's very similar in that regard to Sasquatch, because there are people that, they totally believe that Sasquatch is a supernatural being, interdimensional, and then there's others that believe that it's totally, you know, this plane of existence bound, and that Bigfoot is an some sort of hominid ape in America. So it's still important to talk about this kind of thing on a cryptid podcast, because you don't know what it is, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure it out, and we're trying to look at all these different angles, and we need to interview all these people to get those different angles and try to put the pieces together. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I don't want to give too much of your book away, obviously, but can you tell us like some of the sightings that people have told you?
Yeah. So I interviewed this guy named Josh. He's a medic, and him and his partner were in the ambulance, and they're going around it. This was at night. It's about 2 o'clock a.m. and they're going around this bend. And as they go around the bend on this road, they see this like hunched over being. And the way he described it is he was hunched over just like an umpire at a baseball game is hunched over.
Okay.
Um, and the face wasn't toward them. So they were seeing looking at the back of the head. And the headlights, kind of hit it, and they saw that it was like not like a naked person. It was like some sort of non-human humanoid. And they pass it, and they both look at each other, and then Josh tells his partner, "Did you see that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I saw that." And then he goes, "Tell me what you saw, then I'll tell you what I saw." So they both exchanged the descriptions of what they saw, and they looked back, and it was gone. Now, I asked Josh a series of questions. One of the things I asked him was, okay, you said it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Is it possible that you both were really tired and that you guys were just kind of seeing things? And he said, no, that's our shift. That was my shift for a long time, 2 o'clock a.m. We were both wide awake. We were both talking to each other. Um, so no, we weren't playing tricks, or our eyes weren't playing tricks on us.
Hmm.
Um, and then you figured both of them saw it too, so it's not like just one of them saw it. Um, Josh was really interesting because I asked him, I go, have you had any other, you know, paranormal experiences? And he really hasn't, and he had no idea what crawlers were. Um, he was he was later on told like, oh, you probably had a crawler sighting, and he's like, what is that? Um, so it was really it was just really interesting to talk to him because he was kind of like a no nonsense type of guy, you know. Um, and then I actually have an interview coming up, and it's the only inner city crawler sighting that I've come across, and it's right here in Chicago. So I'm actually I wish I already had the interview so I could talk a little bit about it. But um, from the little bit that I know, this individual he had gotten out of work. He was going to his car. This was in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, so it's a pretty um, it's a lively neighborhood. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of things going on. This was at night though, and he was going to his car and he sees this being behind the car. It was pale, it was emaciated, it didn't look human, but humanoid, he said. And then it just kind of crawled away and very fast. So I don't have the more details, but I like I said, I will get them soon. But I'm just really fascinated by this sighting because from all the sightings, they're all in rural areas. Um, there's kind of a couple of different characteristics in terms of the environment that crawlers are seeing. A lot of times, it's either in like a foresty area, or it's by a cemetery, it's by a cave. Um, those are the three main ones I would say. I have not come across a single one that was in a city area. So this will be the first one. So let's see how that one goes. I'm pretty excited about it though. Um, Also, a lot of them, even though there have been sightings all over the country. I noticed there's a concentration of them in the Midwest, which I'm fascinated about. And I'm still trying to, I'm, there's this other paranormal researcher that I'm kind of talking to about it. And we're trying to figure out, like, what is it about the Midwest that you would see a lot of these in? Is it because a lot of the Midwest is, there's a lot of rural areas in the Midwest, you know, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri. A lot of these sightings are in those areas. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. You have a lot of like the coal mines and stuff down in Kentucky and Tennessee and that area. And there you get like the reports of the goblins that come out of there.
yeah,
And even those though don't match up at all with the descriptions. I mean, these things are very short, kind of minuscule creatures, large ears. Um, but there's a lot of sightings of those. I mean, the Kentucky goblins, the whole Hellier story, uh,
yeah.
all that stuff you got down there. But that's nothing like what we're talking here. You mentioned that. Sorry, you mentioned that some of these things. One of the theories is that they're a underground race of humanity in that, which it kind of makes sense. If you have
Yeah.
these very pale, emaciated creatures, take a look at some of the other animals that live down in caves. In that, you have a lot of not albino, but just white creatures or clear creatures and stuff,
Hmm.
because they don't have the sun, they don't have that pigment, they don't need it because they're typically either blind or very poor vision because they don't need it in the dark and that. So I mean, I don't want to get too much into like conspiracy theories of the mole people and all the underground bases, reptilians, all that shit, but
Sure. Yeah. I do.
yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. But from a scientific standpoint, looking at these creatures, if they are an underground creature of some sort, this would make sense given the biology, the physiology of these creatures and that. Have you come across any stories that, lead more towards that tendency that they are like underground based?
So one of the sightings I interviewed this guy who had a sighting in Monmouth, Monmouth, Illinois, and there's caves actually in Monmouth, Illinois, and his sighting was again in a rural area, and it was right by a park. And if you look on the map, like on the other side of the park, a little bit ways away, there's actually a cave not far from there. So I'm thinking, and if you want to go down the scientific path, it is possible that there actually used to be um, monkeys in North America. The thing is, those monkeys went extinct about, I believe it's 3 million years ago, and these were tailless monkeys. So is it possible that these monkeys fled underground and kind of evolved underground? And that's what we're seeing is these humanoid looking monkeys that once in a great while will come to the surface, you know, scare the heck out of somebody and then flee. That's one I thought about.
That's very possible. I mean, you look at like the Native American lore and stuff around Sasquatch and that, and a lot of them consider them like ridge walkers. So
Right.
you have them up on these mountains and stuff like that. When you look at like biodiversity and the animal kingdom in that, these creatures need to fall into a certain niche,
Hmm.
their place where they are. So if you have the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch creatures up on the mountains and the high ridges and stuff, and then you have the Neanderthals or the human down on the plains, the forest, the prairies and stuff existing,
Right.
you do have this ecological niche where these other possible humanoid creatures could have evolved underground in the cave systems and stuff. And even that, some people believe that even Bigfoot is using caves and stuff to exist.
Yeah.
Have you had any stories or any research in that of suggesting what these things are eating or how they're surviving or anything of that nature?
So, yeah, so there are a couple of reports about these things dragging away deer. There's actually a report where they're on the road, they're going down the road, it's dark, and they see a deer, and they see something underneath the deer, and what it turns out to be is one of these crawlers is snatching the deer's legs, flipping it and then dragging it back into the woods where it can't be seen anymore. There are a couple other reports about these beings eating deer. Um, and then I do wonder if there's a connection between the sightings and some of them being around cemeteries, and then the fact that if you look at these creatures in mythology, they're corpse eaters. So is there a connection there? Um, I haven't come across any of the sightings where they're consuming a body, but I'll definitely be excited if I do come across one of those. Um, there is a famous story in Japanese mythology of the Jikiniki, like I mentioned earlier. Um, there was a battle that was taking place, and between samurais, and there was one samurai left standing. And so he took it upon himself to bury his fallen comrades. And as he's burying them, he sees something out of the trees coming towards him, and he believes it's another enemy. So he draws his sword, but as the being comes closer, he realizes it's not an enemy samurai. He sees that it's not even like a human being. So this being, the Jikiniki, goes toward a corpse and starts to consume it. And he's like, what the hell's going on? I need to kill this. I need to kill this creature. So he, the Jikiniki is consuming the flesh, and the samurai draws his sword, but he's unable to decapitate it. He's frozen. And I don't mean frozen from fright. I mean he's frozen like he literally cannot move. And this being looks up at him and then continues to eat the flesh. And then he's forced to watch the Jikiniki eat the flesh of all the other soldiers before it then retreats back into the forest. And once it does, he's able to move once again. So it's interesting. It's like there's this hypnotic quality to these beings. And there are a lot of reports too that when people see it, that they're frozen. So I do often wonder, and I did ask one of the witnesses actually. I go, when you say that you couldn't move anymore, is it because you were really afraid, or is it because it didn't let you? And the witness, he couldn't actually give an answer. He didn't know. He just said that I don't know. It's just I was caught up in the moment. I couldn't move. But I'm wondering if these beings have like a hypnotic quality to them, and we kind of see that in nature, don't we? Uh, Praying mantises are said to be able to, hypnotize their prey. So, yeah,
I wonder even too, like, on a more natural basis. I mean, if somebody's seeing something that you cannot comprehend, your body, similar to like an injury, will go into shock.
yeah,
It's kind of like a freeze. You always hear like the flight or fright, or fright or flight, um, fight or fright. I'm sorry. Um, where people either go into this fight mode or they flee.
yeah,
But there's that moment before, while you're trying to, okay, so if we're in a bar and you come up and you pull a knife on me, my brain goes, okay, this guy has a knife, he's going to either stab me or I need to get away, one or the other. But now, if all of a sudden you pull off a mask and you're a Bigfoot standing there, my brain doesn't know how to comprehend that. I know what a knife does, a person with a knife does, but now here's this thing that doesn't exist. These
I'm
crawlers.
I'm I'm using fists on you, Barnaby. That's what I'm doing. If we get into a fight at a bar, you're getting these.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
good to know.
But go ahead, proceed.
Um, but you understand what I'm saying there? Like
Yeah.
I know, like if you pull a knife on me, I know what's going to happen. Either I'm going to get it away, I'm going to fight you,
Mhm.
I'm going to run away. There's those options. There's only so many things that are going to happen. But if let's say instead you take your coat off and you have a pair of wings, I mean your brain just stops and goes, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
Like there's no basis, there's no baseline for what is going on. So
Right.
is this something that's actually hypnotic or something like that, or is it just your body going into shock from realizing that you don't know what this is?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and that's what I want to know too. Like, is it that? Is it just that like they don't know how to respond to something that they've never encountered before? And like crawlers, they're like pretty rare in the paranormal. So it's like your brain is trying to comprehend what's taking place right now. So maybe they just can't move because they're just in shock. Um, so I don't know, but it is one of those things that it makes me think like I really do wonder if if crawlers do have some sort of hypnotic suggestion like built into them, you know? So
It's possible. Like I always say here is, because something is not in our scientific books, we consider it paranormal. But you never know what is capable. Even the human body, we don't know everything that is capable of the human body
yeah,
because we don't know what we don't know. If you could do something with your body but you have no idea how to trigger it or use it or use that part of it, like psychic mediums, like hypnotists, like you know telekinesis and all that. These people claim to have these abilities, and who's to say, obviously some people might have them, but if we don't know how to use that ability, we're never going to know we have it, and we're always going to classify it as that paranormal
right.
supernatural thing, when for all we know, I mean, we could change colors.
Hmm.
It's possible that humans could. There's actually evidence that humans glow under certain light, similar to other animals like the platypus and some of the Australian mammals and that have been found to glow under biofluorescent light. But humans do put off some sort of like self illumination. But it's, the world is a lot weirder than people want to admit that it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, researching crawler sightings has been just like I'm looking at the world. I'm like, what the? Like I was researching ghosts and UFOs, and that's odd enough. But now you get into crawlers, it's like, what the hell's going on now? You know? So,
So we were talking about like these things possibly being like underground or something. And do you have any other evidence or sightings and stuff to further that, like as far as like their eyesight, do people have like reports of them, being light sensitive or blind even, or any kind of stuff like that?
so what's interesting is as as similar as these descriptions for crawlers are, it seems like their face and the eyes vary. And I find that really interesting. So some witnesses have described all black, little black eyes, and then others have described um, kind of like glowing eyes,
Mhm.
and then others have described like they can't see a face.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Like the sighting I told you about, Josh, the medic, he
Mhm.
said that he said the face was turned away from him. But I'm wondering if what if the head was facing them, but this being is able to, I don't know, some for whatever reason hide its face maybe because the nose is usually described as same, where it's a tiny nose, like just like little slits for nose. Um, and then some have described that a large gaping mouth, but then others have described where they don't see a mouth. So is it possible that like when the being's eyes, like when they get small, they become so small that they nobody could see it? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of like it reminds me of like the gray alien beings where they only have like small slits for a mouth. And I'm wondering if it's one of those deals where like the lips blend in so well with the rest of the face that when the mouth is closed, you can't see it.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe the eyes are similar, where the eyes, you know, if they just lower their eyes a little bit, that you can't see them, but then they're also able to, open their eyes wide, and maybe if light shines on it, that's when it glows. And when there's no light, that it's just all black. So,
Well, I think as far as the eyes go, looking at like other night animals, the larger your eye allows more light in, so
right.
you're able to see better. So the people describing a large black eye would be indicative of like a night vision animal or something that spends a lot of time in the dark to be able to see. And then at the same time, you have the glowing of the eyes is described and talked a lot about with Bigfoot research and stuff. With the tapetum lucidum in the back of the eye is actually a
Yeah.
large reflector. So this would account for people seeing like the large glowing eyes would just indicate more of like a nocturnal animal. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we talked about before, you and I, about like a lot of these crawler videos, and like I I tend to dismiss a lot of the videos because they just seem very like they seem very fake. They seem like they're being hoaxed. But I don't know if it is, I mean, I could be wrong. Some of these videos could actually be genuine. But what's interesting is that they do get the eye shine
Hmm.
correct in these videos, at least some of them. And that's kind of what makes me think like, I wonder if there's something going on to some of these crawlers captured on video. I'm not sure. And that's the frustrating part too, because I often have to say, in terms of the crawlers or in terms of the paranormal in general, that I'm not sure, and it just makes me feel like a little frustrated or like I'm not doing my job correctly. I'm sure you experienced this too, but it's like I really just don't know. I'm putting the pieces together, and I'm putting the pieces into a book so it's more, coherent than what I'm describing here. So,
That's everything. I mean, you can all you can do, like we've done with the eyes and the body and the stuff with this creature, is compare it to things that we do know. And that's terrible way to research this because with any of the cryptids out there, obviously it is not something that we know.
mhm,
And trying to compare it to other biological entities and putting it into those little boxes is not working because obviously it is not.
right.
Or it is and we're just not. I don't know. And then there's that word, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's all we can do is speculate and try and look at it from a logical standpoint because like I said, we're talking about the rake being this, online fictional story, but it doesn't end there because it starts way before that. And if it
Right.
started way back, people were seeing something, and whatever that was, is still being seen today.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of people I spoke to that want to dismiss the crawler sightings, but as you know, when you interview these people and when they're kind of like pouring their heart to you,
Hmm.
and you could interview people, and sometimes they're very eccentric, or sometimes they're prone to flights of fancy. But a lot of these witnesses, they just been really like down to earth and saying, look, this is what I saw. Here's the information. I don't have anything else for you.
Hmm.
And that's I find that really interesting. These people, they're not trying to be on TV or, gain anything from it. They're just sharing their story. And all these people who don't know each other and who've said that they've never heard of Crawler are sharing very similar stories. And that's what keeps me going into this Crawler phenomenon.
Absolutely. There's definitely a difference between people who are selling you their story and trying to get it out there, and then the people that are just telling you the story because they need to get it off their chest.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there are a lot more credible people, and there's definitely a difference.
Yeah, and some of those witnesses have even asked me. They go, so you've interviewed other people that I go, yeah, I've interviewed, blah blah blah, and they go, do you think you could like put me in touch with this person because I just want to be able to talk to somebody else who's seeing what I sing, and
Mhm.
that's like it's like whoa, like these people they're just doing their thing, they're just living their life and they experience something profound and want to talk to somebody about it. So,
Is there any kind of like well, you're talking earlier about like Reddit and stuff about there's like a subreddit about the crawlers and stuff, but is there any like I guess support group? You have like Sasquatch Chronicles to tell your story and here and that and and so on and so on these other platforms and that. But is there any kind of outlet for these type of things?
no, there's not a lot of information online. You could find some stuff. I know there's a researcher in Canada who uh, he has a couple crawler reports. Um, he mostly does other types of cryptids, but yeah, he has a few crawler reports. But yeah, there's not too much out there about crawlers, which is another reason why I wanted to be like, hey, there's not a lot of paranormal researchers getting in on this. I want to see what's going on. I want to find the information and be able to share it with my colleagues and see what they think about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love talking to you about this because like you said, there's not too many people out there that are talking about it, and I think it's important to bring it out. And for the people that have had experiences, there are people out there that are looking into it, and you are definitely one of them. So if there are people out there listening and that have stories and have had encounters, how can people get a hold of you to share their story for you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, just Jack Chavez. I also run a Facebook group called Paranormal Chicago. I update it with like different articles, not necessarily ones I write, just like paranormal articles, events that I do. Sometimes I share stories on there. So if you want to share your story on there, if you want to contact me through there, please let me know. I'm also in the middle of building a website, and I want this to be a platform where people could share their stories. So that'll be coming up at some point this year.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And obviously, if anybody wants to come out and check you out this Saturday in Chicago,
Or if
they
they want to check you out, yeah,
or Chad Lewis. Who doesn't want
there
to check?
you go. Yeah,
I always say it's not a podcast. It's not one of my podcasts if we haven't brought up the Hodag guys or Chad Lewis.
right.
Every single podcast has one of those two in it. I mean, they just get mentioned or brought up by a guest or something. So it's not an episode if you don't get to hear the Hodags and Chad Lewis. So
Everything leads back to Chad Lewis.
everything leads back to Chad
You
Lewis.
could be in China talking about the rice fields, and it gets connected to Chad Lewis.
Absolutely. I listened to another podcast from England, the UK over there, and she recommends books at the end of her podcast, and she
Mhm.
recommended Chad Lewis.
Oh, did she really?
It's like, yes,
That's
he is
awesome.
there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh man. See, I was right.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a good time. Definitely a great guy, and Chad Lewis is going to be there this Saturday as well, giving a presentation, as you said, so everyone can come out and meet the legendary Chad Lewis.
One day when you have your book out, everything's gonna be lead back to Barnaby Jones.
I know.
'Cause
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's coming eventually.
I'm waiting to be interviewed for it. That's what I'm
Oh
waiting
yeah,
for.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Jack is actually on one of our episodes, the Chicago Mothman episode. He is one of the guests and researcher and witness things on that episode. So go check that out on our YouTube page, at Wisconsin Caps. There you
If
go.
you
There's a
want,
plug for Jack. Yeah,
if you want to.
if you want. Yeah.
If you want to.
Jack, you also do before we head out here, you also do paranormal tours, and I know this is a cryptozoology show and stuff, and a cryptid
Yeah.
network, but a lot of this stuff overflows. How can people get a hold of you for that and take the Chicago tours with you?
Yeah, so you could I don't run a tour company, but you could contact me, and I also collaborate with other tour companies where I help them out too. But yeah, I also do private tours in the Chicagoland area. So if you want to contact me directly, we go all over Chicago. We go the north side. We go to kind of like the southwest suburbs to the Resurrection Mary ghosts, if you're familiar with that, which is a hitchhiking ghost. Um, but yeah, sometimes we do talk about cryptids too. We'll talk about the Lake Michigan sea serpents. We'll talk about the alleged Mothman sightings that have occurred in Chicago. So, yeah,
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Jack, it is always a pleasure to have you on, and
of
I would
course.
have comments for you, but unfortunately, as I said again, this is recorded because Jack, you got to work. Everybody's got a life, but I wanted to make sure that we got you on here. So,
Yeah, just blame it on me, Barnaby. Thanks.
hey,
It's just,
I am up every morning to do this show live. It's not my fault that you're not. So.
all right, fine. I'll take this one.
For those interesting, we are actually recording this at 2:30 in the morning
Oh
right now.
God, I have to be up in a few hours. God,
Yeah, so there you go. But,
yeah,
yep. So Jack, I appreciate your time, and I hope that everyone comes out. And I will, when this airs, I will see you in a week. But it's going to be about a couple of weeks. But I will see you soon.
well, thanks for having me, Barnaby. I'm always glad to do your show, and you're awesome, and you're a great researcher and a great friend. So thank you.
Thank you, man. All the best to you.
I want more compliments. No, just kidding.
We'll see when we get down there. I'll give you all the compliments you want. There you go.
Awesome.
But as we said, we got Chad there, so I got to split him between the two of you. So it's just not fair.
This is understandable. This is
All right, good.
yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna
All
wrap
right.
things here, and you have a great night, and we'll see you in a couple days or weeks.
All right.
So,
Bye, everybody.
bye. Thanks, Jack. All right, guys. Yep, it is going to be this Saturday down in Chicago at the Chicago Paranormal Convention, June 17th, noon to 7 p.m. I'm going to be speaking along with a lot of great speakers. If you guys can make it out, it's a great event. It is only $1 admission to get in, and we've done. This will be the fourth one Jack has done, and I've been at two of them. I could not make the second one because I had a different obligation. So, but otherwise, I would have been there as well. But if you guys can make it out, definitely check it out. It's going to be a great time. So until next time, guys, that's it for the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, I'll see you on the edge.